Welcome to the Great Things LLC podcast. I'm your host, Josh Meter. In this episode, we're talking with Mark Sotomayor of Treecup Tea. All right, listeners, welcome back. It's the Great Things podcast. It's been a few weeks since I put the last one out, but I am excited to introduce Mark Sotomayor. As you know, in Great Things podcast here, we highlight people doing amazing things with good intentions and great feelings. So Mark is a local gentleman here. We've met in the community and we happen to attend the same college at different decades, I'll say, but both went to Grove City College, and Mark's here. And Mark has a great story. He started a tea company. And it's not just a tea company, but it's socially conscious. It's doing some really great economic and environmental development down in Haiti. So Mark, welcome this morning.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me, Josh.
Yeah, so let's dive right in. So I first experienced your tea at a local farm market here in Harmony, Zillionople, and it was fantastic. And at that point, the tea was named Te Amo. So why don't you give us a little bit of background about who you are and how this whole tea business came about?
Yeah, I was a sophomore studying entrepreneurship at Grove City College. I had just quit my job selling Cutco knives for the past year and a half. I had had enough of that and had quit that right before the summer, before sophomore year. 2 weeks into that year, Labor Day weekend happened. We had a day off and I go to my mom's house. She makes me all my favorite foods for a nice Labor Day lunch. She had, steak, potato salad, this awesome other salad she makes. And there was a picture of my grandma's Peruvian Chai tea recipe there. In one sitting, I literally drank the whole pitcher. And at the end, I'm like, Mom, this tea's so good, you could literally sell it. She's like, well, you study entrepreneurship, why don't you? And then the proverbial light bulb went off. I got excited. Something told me I was looking for something I was passionate about for the past couple of years, being interested in entrepreneurship. And I had this notion that I wanted to graduate into my own company. Studying entrepreneurship, I thought it would have been a failure to graduate and get a job and work for someone. I wanted to use those 4 years as kind of a springboard into what I wanted to do with my own company. So I told her to make some tea and show me how to make it after that lunch. And indeed, we emptied out some milk gallon containers, filled them up with sweet Peruvian chai tea and unsweet Peruvian chai tea. I got some Dixie cups on my way back to school, and I had all the Grovers try it out, tell me what they thought. I sent out like a Google survey with it, and from there I started tweaking the recipe. So I was thinking I would maybe casually develop this, and in school we learned about the lean process of ideation, innovation, making a business, which is just inching along, having customers or prospective customers try like incrementally better prototypes of products. So about 2 weeks after that, 1 month into my sophomore year, I got kicked out of my college for smoking pot. And that sucked. I had 4 months open when really for the past year and a half, I had been working overtime, selling knives. And that time I had a girlfriend. We broke up. It's okay. And then I had 4 months open. I didn't know what to do. I thought I was working to get myself ahead. And then, one misstep and I was behind. Indeed, a whole semester behind. So I was depressed for probably a week while I was kicked out of school, suspended. Oh yeah, by the way, I hadn't told people this story, but now I love telling this story.
Isn't it funny too how we have events in our life that seem like overwhelmingly oppressive and just like, oh my God, I've messed up my career, my college transcripts. And you think it's a low point. In hindsight, some of those dark times really initiate innovation and creativity.
Yeah, indeed. Now I look back and I just see God's benevolence in turning a bad situation, a misstep, and I felt like I was getting persecuted or whatever back then, into uh, probably the greatest blessing in my life, my business. So during those 4 months, I kind of fine-tuned things. I knew for the first week I was like super depressed, but I got over it. And then I'm like, all right, well, I got to do something. I'm gonna figure out this tea. So I decided I wanted to attach a social cause, and I was researching online on my couch every day. I'm reading articles about cause impact. I was researching during the time Hurricane Irma was happening. I thought, wouldn't that be cool if a sale went to a relief fund for this? And then I heard about all these wells in Africa, how they're digging them and developing clean, purified water wells. I was into that, but nothing really stuck perfectly with like the branding. And then serendipity. One of the first times I was selling my tea, actually at the Evans City Living Dead weekend. Um,
And for those
I
of you who don't know what the Living Dead weekend is in Evans City, it's actually where George Romeo shot Night of the Living Dead. So, of course, the town celebrates that. And if you're in Western Pennsylvania, you're welcome to stop and see Little Evans City, the home of the infamous Living Dead movie.
Yeah, it was amazing. More people than I've ever seen in Evans City on the streets walking around. And people like my tea. I was selling them out of like zombie cups I got on Alibaba. And it was then that a professor over at Westminster at the time came up to me. It turns out he was the only entrepreneurship professor, the entrepreneur in residence at that college for the business school. And he asked me where I'm at in the process, and I was telling him I want to attach a social cause. And he tried the tea, he liked it, unique taste of cinnamon, cloves, anise, infused with a black tea. Back then we would use Lipton tea bags as the base black tea. Now we use loose leaf Indian black tea and stuff. And he started telling me about Haitian deforestation, about the history of it. Haiti's about 80% deforested, most impoverished nation on this hemisphere, the Western hemisphere. And he told me about this nonprofit in Pittsburgh called Haiti Friends, founded by the Mellon family. And he was telling me about this, really making a good pitch for it. And I thought, trees, I didn't think about that. Buy a tea, plant a tree. And that came to my mind too. And then he told me he sat on the board and he knew the director personally in the lineage of the Mellon family. So I said, great, can you give me his number? I'll shoot him a call. A couple days later, I shoot this dude, Edward Rawson, the director of Haiti Friends, a call. I tell him about my idea, the buy tea, plant a tree, and he's stoked. He is also an innovative, creative, creatively minded, awesome dude, and visionary. And he loved it. I asked him how much per tree. He said 40 cents. And ever since then, we've been paying 40 cents per sale we get, passing it on.
That's great. And I've been, following along, and I mean, you've planted more than a few trees in Haiti at this point. Where are you up to right now?
18,000.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. And what type of trees are they specific to the region? Are they, I know they have some benefit with the soil, and you maybe dive a little bit about how the trees actually get distributed and what they're actually doing for the country.
Yes. So they specifically reforest the Artibonite Valley, which are extremely deforested hilltops. Hundreds of years ago, they were deforested to grow tea and coffee, and in the valley, sugar cane. So they slashed and burned hundreds of years ago. And now rural subsistence farmers live there. Every farmer has kind of their own size land of plot, own quality land of plot, but the common thread is that most don't have trees. So we specialize in planting trees directly on their farmland, and they're mostly hardwoods. The three most common ones, which make up more than half of the trees planted, are a Caribbean tree called the acacia, Haitian mahogany, and Haitian oak. So high quality trees that actually, once they're grown fully, and if they were to be harvested, they would be sold for the most sum lumber wise. So that's one of the plans in later, 20, 30 years down the line, once the trees are grown, in order to use them sort of like as a monetary bond for these subsistence farmers, which only make like, compared to US dollars, like under $2,000 a year per household. And they're just living off of what they're growing. The ground is really rocky. If you look at images of the Artibonite Valley or on our website, you can see that the topsoil is kind of lifeless. The color of it, and it's really loose, it's powdery like dust. And amidst that, all these rocks, it's because of the topsoil being eroded. There's nothing to hold down the soil, and it washes away down towards the valley, making the valleys actually quite fertile. So there's problems between the Haitian farmers at the bottom of the valley reaping all this, just because of the land their ancestors had, reaping a better harvest and more money, better, easier life, versus the people whose ancestors have owned the hillsides, which wash away. And so tough circumstances, but we plant trees directly on Haitian farmers' farmland, and that way they can have more permacultural agroforestry. What that means is create kind of like a bio ecosystem, which brings more life, worms, birds, richer soil to the area.
That's wonderful. And it's karmically interesting that the land was destroyed for tea and for coffee, and then a century later, tea's actually rebuilding the land. Wonderful approach with the overall environmental impact: stop the wind, stop the soil erosion, put the nutrients back in. That's fantastic. And 18,000 trees. Now let's jump forward a little bit. So you've now made the contact and you've what's the next step? How did that first evolution of your company come into existence?
Yeah, so I reached out. I was looking for bottles. I was looking online, mostly on Alibaba, and different bottle manufacturers in the United States. And they all, I didn't have much money. They all wanted me to purchase in large quantities. And now I can purchase in large quantities. But back then I wondered, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then the idea came to me. Marburger Dairy Farm, based out of here in Evans City, and it's right down the road. So I contacted them, told them what I was doing, asked them if they could give me any smaller quantities of their bottles so that I could fill up. And yeah, they helped me out for actually up until now. I ran out of bottles recently, and I use the dairy farm bottles as a substitute, and I fill my own tea with them. So I could buy
kind of amazing because for the local farmer, one, that you did it locally, which is fantastic. But Marburger Dairy also does bottled drinks. So it was essentially a slight bit of competition, and for them to step up and help you out on a new startup is fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. They bottle their own teas. So they're amazing for doing that. God bless them. They've helped us every step of the way, and they transferred it over to us at cost. So cost me, a couple cents each bottle. And from there, I got my own label made. My mom, she had a friend that was a designer, so I didn't really know any other designers, so reached out to him, and he made our first label, which was, the brand name was Te Amo, which it was a play on words. It means he love and I love you in Spanish. So I thought I was being all clever. And yeah, we ran with that name. When I was suspended, before I went back to school, we had funded 1,000 trees. That was my goal, and I hit it. And I had just sold at farmers markets. I had tried my hand selling at the Strip District and a couple different fairs. I found on the website pa-vendors.com. And yeah, from there, we just kind of moved forward with getting our own labels made on U-printing, a sticker website online, peeling off each sticker, wrapping it around while we were, I don't know, watching a TV show or something, and filling them up manually.
And at that point, because there's a part of your brand and your intention is also not just the environment for Haiti, but the environment in general. So you stay away from plastic bottles. Did you start with the glass bottles right away, or is that something you evolved to?
Yeah, we had to evolve to it. Glass bottles are heavy and expensive, and to get a custom mold is difficult. So I was using plastic bottles from Marburger Dairy Farm, BPA free, luckily. And then I moved to this biodegradable bottle. It biodegrades within 5 years in the landfills, also BPA free. And that was definitely more expensive than other ones. I got about 10,000 of those, although that took me till my second year to get those in and use those, and now they're all sold out. And now we're moving to glass bottles, which can be refilled, reused, recycled.
That's wonderful. So there was a place that, Te Amo was the start. You had a little bit of a knock on the door or a letter in the mail for that, and moved to the brand of Treecup as it is now. You want to share that little bit of the story, because it's interesting.
Yeah. So I got back in my next semester of school. I came in making the best of my suspension and all that, my semester expulsion technically. And then I'm there and I get into this one on-campus incubator, and I'm developing the brand and what my marketing would be. I make like a commercial. I get into like a dozen local shops. And I thought I was making some good leeway, productivity, and each day I'm focused on this in my classes. And then I had to make a decision. Should I apply for an internship this next summer, or should I just try to be an entrepreneur? And I'm like, you know what? Once again, I'm studying entrepreneurship. This is what I want to do. I'm going to go in. So I worked from home all summer, selling these bottles, churning through. And we did a couple thousand bottles sold. And then in the middle of that summer, I get a letter in the mail. And it's from a Guatemalan company called Te Amo. They're lawyer in Puerto Rico. And it says they have an international trademark for the name, and that we got to change our name or else they can sue us. And then I reached out to a lawyer friend of mine, and they're like, they can take everything you have so far. If you could fight it, but you don't have the money, and you want to win, and et cetera, et cetera. So at this point, actually, there had already been some problems I discovered with the name. First off, people, Americans thought it was Timo, since it was right next to each other, the words. And a Spanish name selling in the United States but planting trees in Haiti is confusing. And, complexity confuses, simplicity sells. That was something I learned in marketing in college. So that was a problem. And I didn't like my design fully. It wasn't professional or fully professional or nothing that you could see not going national. But I got this and I was really disheartened. Finished up my first summer doing my own gig, raising about $4.5 grand. And then I went into my junior year of college. And I knew I had to either change it. I was wondering whether I should just quit or continue. And having already planted trees made me want to just continue. So it took like months to figure out a new name. The name Piebwa, which means tree in Haitian, was taken. Tea tree was taken. Other ones like that taken. And I put out a name our tea business competition. That whole semester I was kind of sulking around, kind of focusing on academics and stuff, but trying to think, what am I going to do? Then by December, the whole semester, went by quick. By December, I put out a name our tea business competition. I put it out on all my social medias. I'm getting all these names in. And then someone submits Treecup. And I search it on the trademark database I had learned how to use since then. And I see that it's not taken. And I'm like, wow, man, it's not taken. That's a great name. And he's like, yeah, I know. I'm an IP attorney. I had checked it. And so, yeah, I picked the name. He won. I had kind of like an image come to my mind of a tree in a cup. Kind of like how Apple's logo is an apple, a Treecup's logo is a tree cup. So I thought it was cohesive, unlike kind of my complex branding previously. So then I chose him as the winner. His name's Bob. He lives in Zelienople. Fantastic guy. He ended up doing all my trademark filing for free, pro bono. Amazing. Divine things, amazing. And then I had to look for a designer. By that point, I had probably been through like a dozen designers, talked to them and stuff. None of them did what I wanted then. None of them hit the mark of what I was envisioning. And then by the serendipity, I posted a request for proposal on LinkedIn. And this one dude from London reaches out. And he has his own design firm called Kenko, which focuses on sustainable design for sustainable companies. And he responded to the request for proposal with some awesome designs. We tweaked it from there, but I ended up getting this out of it,
Yeah.
And it was perfect. It looked modern. So it took him several months. Everything takes twice as long, costs twice as much as you think it's going to be. But by the end of my junior year, so it really took a whole year to finally get a new brand again. But it was a way better brand. And by that point, I had my trademark starting to get filed. And I had the designer finished with the designs by the time I finished my junior year. That whole summer, I was still selling out of Marburger dairy bottles, actually. And then I had placed my order with this manufacturer I found in China, in Alibaba. And then by that September, I got my 10,000 bottles in. Oh yeah, my mom gave me a loan to get the bottles. And then yeah, we were off.
That's one thing that I think a lot of people don't realize or don't learn early on in entrepreneurship is asking for help, is reaching out and being vulnerable, because I think a lot of people take starting a new business and like, I got to do it. It's my idea. It's all in my head. And they don't take the opportunity to use the community resources, the literally the resources of the world, like what you did, putting it out onto LinkedIn and finding these people come out of the woodwork. I found people want to help. And when you have a great cause and you have an amazing product, people want to be a part of it.
That's been the case for me. I've tried to do it all myself. It doesn't work as well. Yeah, thank God for the people that, yeah, as you said, came out of the woodwork seemingly.
Yeah, so if you're listening out there and you are thinking of starting a business or changing, ask for help, ask for advice, ask for input, ask for feedback. People are willing and able and happy to give it. Okay, so now we're to the point, you've got your new brand, you're at the, towards the end of school, and this brand is growing. So what I'd like to do is kind of shift focus a little bit and actually highlight some of the 4 T's that you have right now. And you mentioned it earlier to me before we got on the call that you have a new one coming on. So I want to talk a little bit about each of the T's, kind of their flavor profiles, what they mean to you, and then we'll jump into what's next, because you have some really big, exciting things on the plate right now.
Yeah. So our first tea was the Peruvian Chai, my grandma's recipe. And this was exclusively what we sold for like 2 years until we got our new Treecup bottles the first time. And it's got cinnamon, cloves, and anise all infused with an organic black tea, kind of like a simplified, non-creamy version of a chai tea. And people really love it. Mothers and anyone who likes a chai likes it. Our second flavor was the berry jasmine. I love jasmine tea. Every time I went to like a Chinese or sushi restaurant, I asked for jasmine. And I just knew it to be one of the superior teas, like taste-wise, and I guess subjectively, from my opinion. And I went into my loose leaf tea supplier, Presto George, which is in the Strip District. They've been around for a long time, near Woolies. And I was looking through and asking the staff, what do you think? What goes well together? And I actually, before I left the store, I had come up with 6 different blends of tea. And I had bought a lot of different, small amounts, couple ounces here, couple ounces there, of like 20 different types of teas, herbs, and spices. And this was when I was rebranding that I took this on to figure out what new flavors I would have. And I knew I wanted to specialize in teas that other brands didn't make, so differentiation further. And I was going around to all the mason jars and like opening them up and like smelling them and stuff. Now during Corona, they wouldn't let me do this, but this was back then. And then I smelled this berry mix, and I thought the berries would go really well with the jasmine. And so I put them together. Eventually I found like the proper proportions, and then I made the berry jasmine. And that's our best seller in Whole Foods and everywhere now where we sell. So that was my second flavor. And I actually introduced that still when we were in the Te Amo brand labels and bottles. And then I was in Dobra Tea House in Pittsburgh, in Shadyside. A really, really cute tea house. Really expensive teas, like a menu of 300 different artisan teas they make on the spot. And then I had this amazing Czech tea called the Stara Borshoff. And it was phenomenal. I didn't know what was in it. It was a simple black iced tea, but something was different about it. I kind of felt it had like a woody taste to it. And so then I typed into Google woody black tea, and I found out this recipe for lumberjack black tea. A perfect name for my brand, I'd say. Because lumberjacks actually are some of the people who plant the most trees. Although they cut down a lot of trees, they plant trees supposedly, and they're supposed to. Many trees per each tree they cut down. And so this one has cedar firs, juniper berries, and black tea from Sri Lanka called Nilgiri. And yeah, definitely a woody aftertaste, different So people love black teas, and in stores, all the iced tea brands are like all black tea mostly. So I knew I wanted a black tea, but something different. And this has got a ton of antioxidants in it. And indeed, people have never tried anything quite like it. And then in my dorm, with all these different blends of tea, each day I would try a different blend to figure things out. And so I mixed green tea with lemon peels, ginseng, spearmint one day. And I came up with this amazing blend, like a tangy, but also minty green tea. I call it the Gin, Yin, and Yang. I made the name up. And yeah, it's kind of got some oriental parts to it. And that sells really well. It's got a clean green and a punch of caffeine and ginseng in it to wake you up. I also came up with a peach turmeric tea, which was, that recipe was exactly recommended to me by someone, a staff member in Presto, George. And then I came up with a matcha, but I wanted it to be different. So I mixed it, I cut it with some guayukuro, Japanese green tea. So 2 green teas cut together. And those 2 I've actually taken out in order for manufacturing efficiencies and stuff. They sold a little bit less well than the rest. And now, yeah, we're up to those 4. 2 of them are sweet, 2 are unsweet.
Okay. Which are the 2 that are sweetened?
Yeah, our Peruvian Chai tea has 6 grams of organic cane sugar, only 25 calories worth, nothing crazy. Same with the berry Jasmine, only 6 grams of sugar, 25 calories to balance out the flavor. The other 2 are unsweet.
Okay. And then you, we were talking a little bit, you have something sounds really interesting coming up for the next tea.
Yes. We're going to launch for the first time ever on our website and in our in-person vendor sales, ancient healing tea blends. I came up with this summer, although it's not new. You know, tea blends have been used in like Oriental medicine for centuries. And nowadays, whenever people are sick, they sometimes go towards pharmaceuticals or stuff like that, when these holistic medicines have existed, but they're hidden to the world, even though they're ancient. I was in the woods for 3 weeks between July 23rd and August 15th, living in a tent. I thought I was only going to live there for 3 days, but then the weekend, but then my mom and sister called me and said, "We have Corona." So I quarantined in the woods. And that was something I wanted to do too. While I was there, some of the people that were also camping there got sick. And I had all my tea blends there since I was selling tea the first 3 days there at a festival, actually. I decided I'm going to try to heal them with these tea blends. And I had like echinacea, St. John's wort, turmeric, chicory, sencha, the list goes on, and ginger, orange peels, dehydrated peaches, all sorts of stuff, more than that even, just like a box of them. And so I made them these teas, and they indeed were only sick for like a few days. So I thought maybe I had healed them or whatever. And I was also drinking these teas, experimenting with new blends. And then when I was doing work, and I actually went on a couple runs during this time, I could run farther. I had more stamina. Like my breath was more than I had experienced in the past, and my mood. And these people felt, I had asked them if they were impacted, and indeed they said, you know, it helped them a lot. And so then obviously, you know, I thought, wow, well, the Chinese have been doing this for a long time. They live a long, healthy lives. That's what I should do. And this kind of epiphany came over me that I can make holistic medicine in a bottle, not just like a refreshing beverage, like what everyone else does. But instead of, a pill or something, which is kind of like a fraud, I think about it, honestly. I can make them, something that they can get at their convenience shop. This whole image sprung up in my mind of being a totally different tea company. Really the tree of life in a tea company that helps the world, helps the consumer's body, and helps to change the greedy capitalistic system, heal the business industry.
Yeah, conscientious capitalism. I know capitalism gets a lot of bad press. And that always fires me up. Is it the greatest system in the world? No. There's a lot of different things, and we need to meld what's good. But conscious capitalism, where you're doing it not only for the interest of your company and yourself, but for the community, for others, for your employees, and for the planet, is a really good system. And you see it picking up, and it's great to see it in the press and in reality when people are using business to better the communities and the environments. So right now, speaking of bettering the business, you are in the midst of a Kickstarter campaign and going through some expansion plans here. So just kind of give us a wrap up of what you're looking to do next. Where is Treecup going? What do you need? And what will it look like in the next year?
Yeah. So right now we're doing a Kickstarter. We had already hit our first goal at the time of this recording of 5,000. I think today we're at like 6,500. And we're trying to reach about 15 grand. Anything more than that would be great to scale operations. For the first time ever, we're going to use a warehouse. We would like to use a distributor so we can focus on production. And we're also entering a slew of new shops, independent shops and hip, cool, Pittsburgh-based stores. In addition, I'm also really, really looking for some hires, some like sales reps for the next summer. And in order to do that, I have to invest in new vendor pop-ups and all that. So really just growing the business, and we're taking on Amazon. So we're going to be listing on there, seeing how that does and collecting some positive reviews until we have more capacity. And one of the biggest things is importation costs. Tariffs are big right now, so this will also help cover that and ensure that we get in a good position for growing the business into this next summer.
People, if they're interested in your teas as it's coming on Amazon, and if they're outside the Pittsburgh or Western Pennsylvania region, can they get your teas online? Do you ship?
Yeah, we ship. The website is treecuptea.com. We have a great emailing list there at the bottom. You can sign up where you'll be able to see whenever we get on Amazon as well, if you're a frequent on that or you do Prime or something. But other than that, we're also going to reopen stores like Whole Foods. 3 Pittsburgh Whole Foods will be reservicing them and supplying them by the end of October.
Okay, so if you're in the area, look at Whole Foods, keep your eyes out at some of the local farmers markets. If you're not in the area, definitely check out the website. I'll put in all the links to your website and how to contact Mark, and also the Kickstarter campaign. So if you've really been moved by Mark's story and want to help support the efforts at Treecup, go on, throw a couple bucks that way. Mark, it's been a fantastic afternoon. I really enjoyed getting the depth and the kind of the story behind the story. Love what you're doing and wish you the best success. Is there anything else that you'd like to close with before we sign off here?
I'm writing a book. It's called The Chronicles of Jorge, Gap Year. The idea and the plot has been coming to me throughout the year, and now I'm actually going to do it. It's about a Mexican-American kid kind of with insecurities, naivete, innocence. He decides he doesn't want to start college because he doesn't know what he wants to do. So he goes on this epic adventure. He lives in Texas, from conservative hometown of Texas to California, California to Mexico, Mexico to Morocco, Africa. And then he's going to ride his bike from Morocco to the promised land, Israel. So that'll be done at some point, and I'm going to add that into my entrepreneurial toolbox. So look out for that, I guess.
Well, best of luck with that. Like, you don't have enough going on. That's impressive to start a book as well. Well, again, Mark, thanks for the time. Love what you're doing. For everyone else, check out the links in the description. Contact Mark, support him in any way you can, and share the story. If you've liked what you've heard here, definitely share it with your friends. Hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you for watching. If you liked what you saw, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button right now. Stay tuned and check out the channel for other interesting and informative videos.